times since we've been talking the word energy block. Can you
Okay.
kind of explain what an
Yeah.
energy block is and kind of what that, what that means?
Absolutely. So let's do the migraines. Okay. So the energy block is you have a headache, you're hurting, and it's something that either you're that's wanting to be released. So maybe it's an emotion, maybe it's a time when you have the headaches because let's say your boss is something's happening at work that situation that's happening with your boss is really just a recurring pattern for yourself of something that probably happened in childhood. And so when the boss triggers you and or the headaches come on, you might not even know why you're having the headaches. Think about what's happening around the time you get it or when you notice it's come on, because there's something there that's stuck. It's just a warning signal for you to say, hey, you've got some stuck emotions or some stuck energy that's just wanting to be cleared and released. um, yeah, I hope that explains it. It's just really there's something inside of you either that's been hiding or that you have just been glossing over, or if you're so stuck in fight or flight you don't even know that that's what your body's been doing to try and get your attention. Your body is speaking to you all the time. You have any kind of ailments, your lower back is finances, your upper back is you taking on too much responsibility. We just looked up shingles today because we have some family members with shingles, and it's all about not like feeling like you're taking on like your parents negative energies, or maybe sorry, they are emotionally unavailable, and that's all for shingles.
Wow.
And so when you can look at what it is and understand and piece it and heal the piece of that's tied to, then the shingles are going to go away when you get strong. And sometimes it can take a little bit, like boundaries take some practice to build up, because if you've never had boundaries, we never knew boundaries, our family, and I would say anyone in the Jehovah's Witness religion do not know boundaries, right? We're knocking on people's doors getting them to come to be Jehovah's Witness, and at any, like, we're just like, we're the right ones and you're wrong. There's like, no, there's so many things around boundaries. Anyways, we won't get on that topic, but I digress. uh, and so just being able to figure out what is the stuck emotion, or what's the energy behind it, and then looking at how to heal and to clear it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I yeah,
Can I
well,
tell you a couple more? Because I think
yeah.
this could be like just to help like people understand. So,
Yeah.
um, left knee is sore. So the energetic block would be you have self judgment, or you have a fear of moving forward in your life. So I've had some trouble with my left knee because I want to make some changes in my life, and I've been held back by my fear. And so that's my energetic block, is to know what it is and to heal and clear it, and like just check in with my body. Okay, knee, you're hurting when I'm doing these kinds of scenarios or in this situation. What is happening around that I'm judging myself, or I'm critical, or I'm thinking about making that move and I'm having some fear around it, and it's fear of the past. We're so stuck in our past, most of us. And then if it's, and this
Wow.
is your, I'm going a little bit deeper here, is it's my feminine side. So as a feminine, like in my feminine, my divine feminine, it hasn't felt safe for me to be in my feminine. I've been pushed down, especially if you've been controlled in any kind of religion, narcissistic relationship, abuse, is we are shut down in the feminine. And then if you have knee pain on the right side, then you have a judgment of others. And also can be a fear of moving forward. The hips can be fear of moving forward, your feet, your ankles. So there is some commonality there. But it's really neat because when you know what it could be attached to energetically, could be that I ripped something in my knee or whatever, but like also looking at the emotions or the energetics behind what could be there as well. It's really neat because often you can heal and clear and release, and you don't need to be on the meds for it, or all of the other things that come with going to a doctor to
Yeah.
get help.
Definitely. And I think that
Yeah.
if we could go, minus the injuries obviously, but if we could
Yeah.
go to a thought process of what you're talking about first before, going to the doctor and getting prescribed unnecessary medication, that would be obviously the a better route to go.
Yeah. There's still a need for doctors, definitely, but you're exactly right. Like, can you just take that step back and say, okay, what's here? Knee, even if you don't know the words or what all it is, like just tap into your own intuition. Knee, what is the message? Or shoulder, when did it happen? What was going on? How did you feel in that moment? And then can you look at it from that angle to see, like, what is the message? What do you want to tell me? And you might hear it's your own words. It's not anything that's like this booming voice from above. Not at all. It's my own voice. So it feels very comfortable. Or it might be just a knowing where you don't can't explain it, but you just know something.
Mhm.
Like I know someone who when someone says that they're pregnant, she says, "Oh, it's a girl," or "It's a boy." She just knows because it's just we're all like that. We all have that within us. We just
Uh-huh.
never been taught how to access it. So one thing that really helped me, and I'll share this part for especially if you've been raised in religion, as I have a spiritual coach, and they had explained when we die, the grid doesn't change. So I just imagine like a green grid, kind of like the Matrix. So
Mhm.
when we die, that the grid doesn't change. And so if grandpa passes away, yes, his physical body is no longer here, absolutely, but science has proven that that energy can't be destroyed or created. So he's here somewhere and it's just in another form. And so if you want to connect, I have goosebumps right now. Like if you want to connect, ask him for a sign, or ask him to see butterflies, or ask to see I don't know, a unicorn, something. You're going to see it. It's going to come because as we are energy, so is everyone else. And so they feel that. It's just the same as if you say, I haven't heard from John in a while, and then
Mhm.
he messages you.
Yeah.
He felt the vibration of you wanting to have a conversation or just thinking about him, and then thought, "Oh, I should reach out to you." It's all energy. Same if you talk poorly about someone. So I recommend not doing that because there's just, yeah, they feel it too. And so it's just really being able to connect to yourself. And this is why healing your traumas or like anything from the past, but calming your nervous system is really important, because the more you calm your nervous system and retrain your body out of that fight or flight that we probably grew up in, then now you start to feel, hear, see things that you didn't really know before because you were just stuck here. You couldn't see them or feel them before, but then you'll start. And it's cool because once your nervous system is calming down and you're tapping into your intuition, you actually know what your hell yes is and your hell no. So if
Yes.
someone's asking you for a coffee and it's not in your best interest, you feel it in your body, we just don't pay attention. But when
Mhm.
the more you can learn and practice that, or if you want to, make a move in your business as an example, and or hire a coach as an example, you can actually tap in, is this someone who's going to help me, like get me to my next level? You're going to get a hell yes or a hell no.
Yep.
And
I
that's part
love
of muscle testing.
I love that you're saying that. That reminds me of, well, not necessarily that, but I came from an abusive relationship with a
Mhm.
narcissist. And, through that journey, I have very diligently been working on my codependency and being a stronger voice and speaking my mind and being authentic and all of the things. And one of the interesting, I don't want to say issues, but challenges that my fiance and I have had is me speaking authentically. So you're mentioning getting a coffee or whatever drink you just mentioned, and it being a hell yes and a hell no. And that sounds so silly to, could sound silly to somebody who hasn't necessarily gone through any sort of trauma.
Right.
However, it's interesting because there are times literally when, he will say, "Hey, can you get this for me?" And I will say no. And it sounds silly, but there's like a boundary and there's a line between taking advantage, me feeling as if I'm being taken advantage of, and then
Hmm.
me feeling as if it's something authentically that I, in a loving state, will do for him. And a lot, and him also, as we're learning and
Yeah.
developing and like learning to work together, and him being like, "What the frick is wrong with you?" But now he's using those same exact um exercises himself and learning to live authentically as himself. And it's so interesting, the dynamic of the things that we will do for each other because we love each other, and then the things that we won't do for each other
Yeah.
because it is literally a boundary. If he's busy doing something and I say, oh, hey, can you please grab this for me? He is allowed, even if it's on his side, but if he's really focused on something, he does and will say now, I'm busy.
Perfect.
And us being okay with that and realizing, like, hey, listen, this is how we are going to last. This is
Mm-hmm.
how a healthy relationship, this is what a healthy relationship looks like,
Yep.
is not taking advantage of each other and being able to speak our authentic truth without hurting each other's feelings, without being disappointed,
Mm-hmm.
and then being okay with that on both sides. So it's very interesting when you get to that point.
Yeah. That's so good. You are doing it. That's the work.
Yeah.
And you are healing. And like, it is practice and it is work. So I don't want to say that it's easy or, like, or kind of bypass the work that is needed. Like, and it's having someone to help you and to support you. And it is repetition. It takes 63 days plus up to a year to reprogram a new habit. And so really have so much love and so much self-compassion for yourself. But like, here's the spoiler. It's really just life skills. It's learning what are emotions, how to name them and speak them. What are boundaries? Boundaries is not this big wall where it's like, you can't do this to me. Boundaries simply is you taking a step back and giving yourself space to process how you want to respond in the moment, but also what it is, and it's our responsibility. We have to own our own stuff. It's our responsibility. This is what a boundary is. Imagine like, you're a house and there's a fence around you. You are basically telling someone, this is how you love me, and it's this way I would like the door to open, right? So it's my responsibility to tell you how to love me. If I'm triggered, and that's a really good example, if I'm triggered and he asked me for, to grab a glass of water, but in that moment I'm feeling like, no, there's two things there. What energy are you in, or what's your thought process? Is it no, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of right now? Or is it no, I'm actually not available and you're in your safe emotions? Then absolutely that's okay. But if it's no, because I'm feeling like I'm being taken advantage of right now, then that's all on you. That is your responsibility to heal that trigger. I'm not like pointing for you, but like for
No, I
anyone
get
listening,
it.
is like,
Yeah.
that is not that person's responsibility. It's ours, and to own it and say, okay, why does, and this is great. This is where you get curious. This is how you heal yourself. So he wants a coffee. I'm feeling triggered. I'm feeling like I'm being taken advantage of. Why and where is this coming from? What is true? Does he love me? Yes. Is he taking advantage of me like my past? No. Can I control whatever's happening in the situation? No. Or usually yes. Yes or no. Sorry, depending. And just kind of like walking yourself through those steps so that we're not offended. We have our backs up so many times, and it's just our old junk. It's that old story that we learned probably from childhood, of not being worthy or being talked over or whatever the root is. And so everything in your life, as you do one thing, you do everything. This is another important piece. If you've had any kind of trauma or something that has happened, and I'm not even talking about sexual abuse, like you've been pushed down or you haven't been given a voice. For us in the Jehovah's Witness religion, we were given our identity. We weren't allowed to be our own thinking mind. We were usually punished for it because it didn't fit into the realm of what they were teaching. And so when you've been pushed down like that, now you're living, and so let's say you have a business and you're married or you're engaged. As you do one thing, you do everything. And so if you've been pushed down, it's very difficult for you to ask for help or to ask for support because maybe you were chastised or you were punished or criticized. And so it was easier to keep your mouth shut if you walked on eggshells kind of thing, or there was a really strong force in the family. So then what happens is now it's going to affect how you are in your business and whether you can ask for the sale or whether you can raise your price and ask for, amount that really is what you're worth instead of the lower amounts that often new entrepreneurs, especially, because there's a little bit of a confidence thing there, but it's also around the money story, how you handle your money, how you ask, for what you want with family in the dining room at dinner, and how you ask for what you want in the bedroom, where it's like, if I just ask for a little bit, then I won't be rejected or abandoned. And so it's really just think about yourself. And when you're talking to someone and you're asking for things, how does it feel? If you're hiding, then get help, because you can heal that stuff. It can definitely go away where you're just feeling strong. Again, back to life skills. How are you in expressing your emotions and, speaking your truth? What are boundaries? And that when you feel so safe and secure in your skin and who you are, no one can rattle you or trigger you unless you let them, because you know who you are and you know what you're not available to anymore. And the red flags start to become, well, like, especially if someone's trying to be controlling with me now, I'm like, well, not safe. I've been here before. And so I'm able to like take that little bit of a step back and say, I'm not available to that, or no, thank you. I actually, would like to do this instead, or really just being in your own space and being responsible for yourself. But then also, it's not our business how anyone responds to us or what's happening out there. It's us and how we're responding. And are we doing it from old programming, or are we in our 2.0 person, our new way of healing and dealing with things, so that we're not triggered as easily or in that same loop, that negative loop of life is difficult, or it's hard, or no one wants to date me, whatever your story is that you might say over and over. You don't need to live there. You don't need to suffer emotionally anymore, which is really great.
Yeah. Uh, I kind of want to touch a little bit on the example that we were kind of talking about for the ladies that are watching and the individuals that are going
Cool.
to be listening on replay. And the reason why is because I think a lot of times when we're first learning about living authentically, when we're first learning about boundaries, at least in my experience, I totally sucked at it in the very beginning. I was super mean when I was setting boundaries. I would get mad. So instead of saying, you know, I can't even think of an example, but instead of kindly saying things like kindly setting boundaries, I would rudely set them. I would say them in a mean way or a rude way or a yelling way. Because I had never done it before, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. I was mad that the person was making me have to set a boundary, because to me it seems like common sense. So why would I even have to say that? Because obviously, so that would trigger frustration, anger, yelling, because that's the way that I had always been dealt with in the past, was through yelling, anger, and frustration. So that's how I was setting my boundaries. And it took me a good while to realize, oh, I don't have to be rude about this. I can literally just say it like normal talking, and they will listen. So, for those individuals who are listening right now, who are in a point where they're like, wow, this makes sense. Everything Christina's saying is making sense, and I get it and I like it. I'm going to start setting boundaries. So, when I gave my example about the water or whatever, and then you said, I said that I felt like I was being taken advantage of, and then you said for me to look inside. Can you kind of explain that a little bit, not only for myself but also for individuals who are working this? Because, like, for so my example that I would give is today, for instance. Did a bunch of meetings, had a bunch of calls, met two people in person, doing a podcast. I still have to make dinner, and then eat dinner, then clean dishes, then still more work to do. And in that journey of what I'm doing today, there's a handful of things that I've done for the family. Laundry, I swept the floor earlier. And in my mind, somebody says, hey, can you please take my dirty plate to the sink? That would trigger in me, no. Like, I just did all this other stuff. You haven't done any house stuff today. That would make me feel, just being transparent with you, that would make me feel as if I am being taken advantage of. So when you're kind of saying what you're saying, what, how should I view it? And um, am I possibly using the wrong word usage when I'm saying or feeling that?
Mhm. That's really good. Let's go back to the water first, and then we'll come back to the plate.
Okay.
You're okay? Yeah? Okay.
Go
So,
ahead and keep talking. I have to get my charger. So just keep
okay.
talking. I'm listening.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So the water first of I'm feeling taken advantage of because someone is asking me for the water or how to speak those boundaries. Um, it's all in how it feels to you. So and again, it could be, yeah, we'll talk about, so the feeling of I feel taken advantage of, why? It has nothing to do with the water or your fiance. It's all about you and why you feel that way in that moment. And so you can say, not right now because I'm busy, I'm doing something else, or there's many different ways that you can say a boundary that is polite, that is honoring how you feel. So no self-betrayal there, but also doesn't have to be yelling or, like you're always whatever. If that's the case and that's the energy, and then that's you. Like you gotta sort out yourself with that. The feeling taken advantage of over the water is like, when did you feel like that first? Let's go back. And if you're willing to play, we'll play right now. If it is around the water, and just think about like what was happening in that feeling or those emotions that you had. When did you feel like that? When was the first time that you remembered feeling like that? Was it in a home where you had to do everything for your parents, or you weren't left to be a kid and to be on your own? You were given too much responsibility growing up. There's so many different ways that can show up, where now you're like, no, I don't want to do that.
I mean, if the first thing that would come to mind would just be my last relationship where I did everything.
Okay. Hmm. Cool. So then it comes back to like, what are your personal boundaries? So if you're doing everything and you're feeling resentful, and we can go easily into the plate scenario for this, then, why do you feel that you need to do everything and not ask for help and ask for support? So on a day like today, when you know it's going to be busy, hey kids, I'd love if you could do these two things for me. I'd like you to sweep the floor, and I'd like you to take the laundry from the dryer and put it away in your drawer. Like whatever, that's your responsibility to then delegate and to ask for help. And a lot of us don't feel safe to ask for help or for support. There's going to be some kind of rejection there, or even it could be that they give us backlash. Well, I'm sorry, but this is how a household works, and I'm also a business owner, and so I do need some support, and it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. Even if you get the backlash, again, it's not about them or how they respond.
Mm-hmm.
What you did the hard thing. You asked for help. And sometimes, especially if you've been in an abusive type of relationship growing up, that is a major thing, to even ask for what you want and to feel safe enough and to not feel guilty either about no is no, or hey, I have a really busy day tomorrow, or even in the moment, I appreciate that you want me to take your plate to the table, but actually I've had a really long day and I'm just feeling like no in the moment. Do you mind if I sit here and you clear and empty the table? I would really love that. And see what they say. If they're like, no, then, come back at another day when you're not going to freak out and yell and it's going to create something. Then you just take a step back, and maybe you just take in the plate, but then on a day when you're not triggered, you're going to say, hey, I the other night when you had asked me to take the plate, I took it, but really I was thinking like, man, I've been doing all this work. And so for myself, what I noticed in me is that I need to ask for more help around the house. So what are some of the chores that you could go, like going forward, you can help me with in the week? So it might not be picking in that moment. It could be you do the thing that's hard, especially when you've got children or you're in a household. But then when it's a time when they're watching TV, or before bed's a really good time with the kids because they're in their nice calmer state, is be like, hey, earlier when this happened, I felt, it's not you, or you never hear me, or you never pointing the finger or saying you're always expressing from I felt blah blah blah, whatever it is, or this made me feel. You're always taking ownership of how it's feeling for you. The trigger is for you. It is not even about them. It's not about the plate. It's about you are not delegating enough in your life, and now you're resenting doing everything in the family. So that actually is for you, and to then come to a place of, why don't I feel okay to ask for help in the house? Is it because I'm afraid of rejection? Am I afraid of them complaining? Or, well, we can teach our kids responsibility of like everyone pitches in. It's not just for one person to do all the work and then be so dead tired. But it's also honoring yourself. And this is really cool with this is coming back to healing your nervous system, because if you're really tired or you're feeling like Today is just, I'm just done. I got to cook and then do the dishes. You know what? Today would be a really good day for takeout.
Mm-hmm.
And treat yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because it's keeping an eye on you and how you're feeling and what is available to you. What could you do? Could you ask the kids even to make eggs for dinner? So we're going to have breakfast for dinner. It's something that they can cook, so that that is coming off of you. And um, yeah, I'll stop there. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.